Hey, it's Liam Killen. Today we're going to be making an ambient drone-like track with several instruments that sounds like it might be from the early 90s. We'll be using the OP1, my DAW, Logic Pro 10, and the Tascam Portastudio 424 MK2, which is basically like the 90s version of a digital audio workstation, hence the 90s audio quality. In past videos, I've worked pretty much 100% DAWs with the OP1, and this is the first time that I'll be incorporating it with different instruments, and I hope that you are excited as I am about it. I did do some processing through Logic, which we will touch on here and there, but for the most part, the focus will be on the OP1 and the Tascam Portastudio. So this is actually a collaboration with Nick Houghton Drones. We discovered each other on Instagram, and he decided to send me the C minor drone to add parts to. When I started with this, right off the bat, I knew that I was going to add other elements to the track and that this might be a little bit too muddy. So the first thing I did was I added an EQ. I knew I wanted to add a bass, so I cut all of the lows, a lot of the low mids, and there was just some weird frequencies sticking out here and there, as you could see. So I pulled all of those frequencies out of the track. I also bumped the high frequencies as well. Even that drastic EQ wasn't enough. The second EQ I added, I cut more of the low mids, and still there were some frequencies that were sticking out. I'll quickly show you a before and after of that. So this is without any EQs. At this point, it actually sounds a bit too thin with the EQs, but in the context of the whole track, it definitely worked. Luckily, I wrote down all of the OP1 presets in Logic, so we're going to be recreating the original version of this track. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to set up the OP1. Okay, so there's been a little halt here. Unfortunately, one of the keys on my OP1 isn't functioning right now. I'm gonna have to continue this video later. So until then, hopefully this goes well. It's still under warranty, so should be fine, but we'll see. And I'll continue this video then. See you in a bit. Hey, I'm back. Luckily this was a small issue, so I'm gonna give you my overall experience with Teenage Engineering and exactly what happened. So the issue was with the sequencer button, which is pretty vital. I didn't want to send my OP1 back in for repairs because I knew it would take a while and I figured it might be a quick fix. So I sent them an email and they got back to me really quick. And this is sort of the protocol email they send to everybody with dead keys. So they told me to pop off the key. I used a guitar pick. So just pop it up. Okay, make sure you don't lose it. I actually had already done this previously and it didn't work. I tried pressing the button, it didn't work. But they told me to jangle these, I think it's called the butterfly, or this little piece of plastic. Just jangle it around a little bit. Obviously don't go too hard on it. Put the button back on. And the issue was resolved for me. Like I said, they were super quick to respond by email, and yeah, overall it was an easy experience. So everything's back to normal there. Let's get back into this ambient.
This ambience.
We'll look into one of my favorite ways of using the OP1, Synth, Shift 8, head down to Sampler, and we're gonna go down to Suitcase. We'll open up Endless with the sequencer button, Shift, Sequencer, Endless. If you're unfamiliar with Endless, I actually have another video that goes specifically into it. I'll link that up above and also in the description. I also have a ton of other OP1 content, which will also be linked in the description. Once you're in Endless, we'll select 8th notes, like so. So I just twisted the blue knob to do that. We'll head to tempo, make sure you're at the right tempo. My track is at 120 BPM, so I'm gonna do that. Head back to Endless and literally just starting programming notes in the C minor pentatonic scale. If you're unfamiliar with the scale, here it is. With the scale, here it is. In terms of rhythm, I'm just programming these completely randomly. I'm not thinking of any specific amount of notes to play. It's just completely random. The one thing I am paying attention to is covering a lot of range so that it adds variation to the overall pattern. Once you're done with that, hold Shift, twist the red knob to the left, and you'll get to this symbol here. So that means random. So now the pattern is going to jump from one note to the next. You'll see it's completely random. Let's go ahead and add some reverb to that. Maybe not too much, just a hint, because I am going to be adding effects through my DAW, through Logic. Head to Spring. Oh crap, this fan is on. Sorry if that fan was distracting you. Yeah, getting back to the reverb. I find that it's a little bit harsh, so I never use too much of it. Apparently Teenage Engineering is developing a new reverb patch. I'm looking forward to that. Let's hear that in the context of the track. Okay, that fits insanely well. Let's record it. Here we go. This next preset is from my buddy Brad Tennant. I think it's the first preset. No, it's the second one.
It's kind of gross sounding.
Let's hear that up the octave with the rest of the track. I don't really want to call this like a lead line because this is a drone and I don't want anything to be too upfront, but let's just say that I think it should be just as upfront as the other OP1 part, if that means anything. The only thing that really differentiates these two OP1 lines is that this one has a super long release, so it's more of like a sweeping motion, and then this one is more staccato. We're gonna play this one freehand. I'm gonna sit on a few notes that I just think sound good, still sticking to the C minor pentatonic scale. Okay, so we're done with the OP1 for now. Let's take a look at the effects that I added through Logic. I'm gonna put my headphones on for this one. The first effects we'll look at is with the suitcase sampler. The OP1 tends to have quite a bit of hiss in the high end, so I cut all of that. I also cut all the lows and the low mids, otherwise it's just too muddy. The second thing I added is Panman, which actively pans your track back and forth. So that totally softens all the transients and gives you like a where am I type of feel. You could also control the width of how far you want it to pan. Smoothing, so how smoothly you want it to pan as well. Offset if you want it to pan right down the middle or more to the left or the right. These are all options within Panman. I also added Crystallizer, which is sort of a mix of echo and reverb and like a reverse all mixed into one. I did a very similar thing with the other OP1 patch. I added Panman as well as a bunch of reverb. The very last addition to the track is very simple. It's a sub bass, so I'm going to drag it over here. Whoop. The track definitely needed that. There was nothing in the low end, so the bass just fills it out. So we're done with the DAW, we're done with Logic. Let's bounce this over to the Tascam. We have the Tascam set up here. We're gonna walk through the settings. Generally, I don't like to hit it too hard, maybe at like 3/4. So what is that, like maybe 3 dB? We will definitely be selecting normal tape speed for this one because I think it just sounds better for this aesthetic. I won't be touching anything with the EQ. Trim is super low. I have it at pretty much the lowest setting possible. In fact, here, I'm actually gonna drop the level of the track so I could raise the trim a little bit. So I'll drop the track to, let's say, -15, so we could really get the quality of the Tascam. One last thing, the pan. Make sure your pan stereo. So right track is all the way to the right, left track is all the way to the left. That way you have stereo. Oh, you son of a... Okay, I just made another mistake. Just make sure that all of these are set to direct, otherwise you're not gonna get any signal. It's gonna throw you off. It just threw me off. So the next thing is to record into the Tascam. And last but definitely not least, we record the track back into Logic. This is where we could really play with the pitch control and basically change the chords of the track. Maybe make it out of tune or kind of slithery and gross, which is what we're about to do. This kind of makes me want to compose like an ambient album. And that brings us to the end of this journey. It definitely was a journey for me. This has been super fun. I'm always trying to think of new things to show you guys, and if you have any ideas, just let me know. Leave them in the comments, over social media, any way you can. It's been great. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the buttons, do the thing, and I'll see you in the next video.